BJP. Anshul Avajit of the Congress continues to stay with us. And Madhavan Narayanan, senior journalist, joining us this evening as well. First, to the experts, always to arm ourselves with more information. Dr. Chauhan, please help us understand, for those of us who've never bothered to find out about the calf serum or the bovine serum, because most of us only got vaccines in our childhood and then never bothered to follow up on it. What is it and how do we extract the serum?
So when you want to grow a virus or you want to do research with virus, you need to grow the virus. As in case of coronavirus, the virus was isolated, but then a single piece of virus, of course, you're not going to go research. So you need to grow, like any other virus research. A cell line which is very commonly used for growing, that all of us use in the lab all the time, is called a Vero cell line. This is the cell line which is Chinese inactivated vaccine has used. This is what Bharat Biotech has used. So you need large fermenters at this cell line. Now when cell has to grow, so viruses will infect the cell line and then multiply and grow, and then you have to keep growing them to a large scale so that you can isolate virus, which has now grown into high numbers. To grow this cell, Vero cell line, you need nutrients, because cell has to grow, then cell needs a lot of material to multiply. Calf serum, fetal calf serum or bovine calf serum is very good medium in which the cell line will grow. So you remove all the toxins and materials and proteins from the serum of fetal calf or a newborn calf. And this is a clear liquid. We use it everybody who does molecular biology and cell biology uses it. And then you grow yourself. But when you work with vaccines, and these are highly approved. We make lots of vaccines with these cell lines. For example, rabies vaccine is made in there. A whole lot of cell lines. Live vaccines as well as inactivated vaccines are made in these cell lines. So, an example would be rotavirus, smallpox. These are all cell-based. Poliovirus, for example. So we've been using them. Now the question, I think, what is the bone of contention right now is the final vaccine. So there is no choice. You've got to have a medium in which your cells will grow fast, because you need to grow a large number of cells. So that being settled, now does any part of calf serum or bovine serum will get into the vaccine? Answer is absolutely not. And I've been saying this on your channel because the vaccine has to be extremely pure. Each batch has to be tested. There's no material coming from any other source. So in this case, when virus is isolated in large scale, this is a large batch of virus, then it's cleaned up repeatedly until you got rid of any contamination.
Okay.
And then you inactivate it. And so if this is the question, that the vaccine which is going to go into my arm or your arm has any part of calf serum, answer is, as far as I know, as much science I know about vaccinology, no.
Okay, so no, it isn't. Anshul Avajit, does that convince you and your party? And should you not have found this out before putting it out on social media, where millions of people exist and may just now be more hesitant to take the vaccine?
Yes, so you know, the
Congress spokesperson.
Dr. Chauhan, just 1 minute. Let me just take this to the Congress representative. Yes.
Sure.
You know, Tanvi, as a Congress spokesperson, I'm just going to tell you a clear and unequivocal view of the Congress party, which is to take the vaccine. For God's sake, everyone should take this vaccine, take as many vaccines as possibly available to you. The problem is there are not enough vaccines, but that's another debate altogether. Right now, we are advocating everyone to take our vaccines wherever possible. In fact, our position has been that they should be made free and universal for everyone to take. We've been saying this right from the beginning. And if we were trying to promote any form of vaccine hesitancy, then we would have not made this initial statement that all vaccines should be centrally procured. They should be made free and they should be distributed in conjunction with the states as stakeholders. So we still think that the vaccine distribution policy is flawed. We want corrections to that, but we are not asking anyone not to take vaccines for whatever reasons.
Yeah, but
so I am going to make
but I
it clear once again,
don't.
Tanvi,
When a person
please
from
take
your
this vaccine.
party, when a person from your party with 185,000 followers on Twitter puts out a tweet, Anshul, that says this is heinous. This information should have been made public before. A portion of the clotted blood obtained from less than 20 days young cow calves after slaughtering them. You don't think this will lead to vaccine hesitancy? You don't know that this will become a religious sentiment issue and people will have questions about whether they should be taking this vaccine or not?
Therefore, I am trying to tell you, Tanvi, now that you've read that tweet out, that vaccine should be taken without any feeling of hesitancy whatsoever. The cows, obviously, as you mentioned before, is a highly sensitive and a political topic. I don't want to go into all that once again. That's for another time. Another debate maybe. I want to make the Congress's position absolutely clear. I mean, look, there are hundreds, we spoke about Twitter before. There are hundreds of tweets that go from all, and one cannot cherry pick tweets and then make that into a Congress position. As a Congress spokesperson, as a responsible member of this society, I am telling you that the Congress position is to take the vaccines and also not encourage any vaccine hesitancy. In fact, to build trust, go for an outreach program, to get your messaging across, to target women and all that. So all the components that go with a solid, robust vaccine policy, a propaganda policy, is what I am advocating.
Okay, Mr. Raman Malik,
Mr.
Raman Malik, are you convinced with this? Because I haven't seen the Congress party officially come out with a statement distancing themselves from this at all.
Tanvi, I find it a little too surprising that their chief spokesperson nowadays, Mr. Khera, comes out and does a PC, comes out and gives his sermons. Gaurav Pandey has not removed the tweet till last I saw. And not just that, it's not the first time that they have spoken against the vaccine or the vaccination drive. Calling it, in Rajasthan, the leaders have called it reason for impotency. In other places, they have given other reason. And God knows where does the intellect come from, to the extent that, they have, they've not even read the kind of research papers that have come out. There must be some portion of intelligentsia which is there in the Congress ranks, and they must be reading certain things. I would like to cite that Mr. Avijit should tell their party intelligentsia to read the reports of Dr. Suzuki, a very eminent virologist from Japan, about what he says of the spikes and the various factors that are coming with Moderna and Pfizer especially. So they were supporting all of those. So I am not going into the politics of which vaccine to promote and this and that. All that I'm trying to put forward here is, and which must be think, that it was a dirty trick played by the Congress, Mr. Pandey especially, and then followed with Mr. Khera, and then definitely retweeted by His Holiness. But then they must have done some research before they start claiming, and that is what the problem with Congress has been ever since. They are ready to jump the gun, one. Second, they are not ready to understand the basic difference between accusing somebody and contradicting somebody, because accusing somebody, you just need to move your tongue, and for contradicting somebody, you need to read and study them, which apparently they generally do not. Now, my question here remains that the same very people who had tweeted and retweeted and done every bit of possibility to create this vaccine hesitancy earlier also and now also, will they at least stop playing dirty politics on this particular issue? Because we must not forget, we are still fighting and getting up from the second wave. We need to take care of the entirety that is there. We cannot discount that. And
and
obviously,
I get your point. And you know what? I understand when the questions are asked about transparency in data. I understand when questions are asked about how the process was followed for giving any approval. But I don't understand, Mr. Madhavan Narayanan, that why would a political party want to resort to this kind of cow politics when it comes to vaccine? Has the Congress's attempt backfired? Was this ill thought?
Tanvi, it's not the political party. It was it is not the stand of the political party.
Anshul, Pawan Khera has come out and given a comment saying the government and Bharat Biotech must clarify on it. Instead of saying that Gaurav was wrong in tweeting this, and like Raman Malik points out, the tweet still very much exists on the Twitter platform. So unless you are saying he's not part of the party, and Pawan Khera should not have said that, why did he say that the government must explain it?
We are not rabble rousers, Tanvi. The idea is not to. Sorry, if you're asking me. We are not rabble rousers. The idea is not to stop any kind of, encourage vaccine hesitancy. We want as many people to be vaccinated as much as possible and as quickly as time.
Yes. Okay. Madhavan Narayanan, please.
Yeah, I think we are digressing too much from the core points here, Tanvi. Core point is very simple. The serum is just about a step or two removed from the cow's milk. It's just extracted from the body. It doesn't involve harm, and certainly from clear clarifications, it appears there has been no slaughter of altogether. Therefore, to start with, Congress has got its facts wrong. It's serious. Second, and it's a global practice, as it was rightly explained at the beginning of the show. I mean, today is my glorious chance to say that, I may be a critic of the government, but it's always based on facts, just as facts support me today in criticizing the Congress. It's stupid, if you ask me. First of all, they are trying to wear a cloth that doesn't fit them. It's trying to play soft Hindutva desperately at a time when they were actually on the right foot. If you've been seeing the way Baba Ramdev has been shooting off his mouth against allopathy, if you see the way the entire vaccine second wave was handled by the government in terms of focusing on vaccine production when it should have been focusing on vaccine purchase and procurement, the Congress seemed to have an advantage in this political Wimbledon. They have actually hit the ball straight into the net in this case. And therefore, they have made a political mistake. It doesn't go with their ideology of Jawaharlal Nehru talking about, let us have a scientific temper. Yeah. And this doesn't go ideologically. It doesn't go by facts. It doesn't go by in terms of attitude, and I'm very, very surprised. Even Pawan Khera, my good friend, has chosen to be a bit vague about this, and Anshul Avijit has been valiantly trying to digress the issue by focusing on the need for vaccine. That's not what we are debating today at all. We're talking about whether the Congress has been throwing spanners at covaxin or not. It should not confuse Bharat Biotech with the Bharatiya Janata Party. The BJP may try to piggyback on Bharat Biotech, but let's not blame Bharat Biotech, which is an excellent company, which has got a great future in making India a global base for vaccine. So if I were Mr. Anshul Avijit, I would go back to a virtual conference of the other spokesperson and say, look guys, we screwed up royally today. That's what I'll be hearing. That's what they'll be doing tomorrow morning anyway. I'm pretty sure of that.
We gave them the whole day, Mr. Madhavan, and I was expecting. And they have news briefings every day, twice a day.
I'm clarifying the position, Tanvi. I'm saying go for the vaccines. Go for the vaccines. I'm clarifying the position. There is nothing else to be said. I'm saying go for the vaccines. What else can one I say?
Okay.
No, Anshul, you're doing a very good job. I know, Anshul is defending a good or bad.
I can understand your position. Nobody needs to convince me about the.
So let me tell you this. Anshul, you are sitting on my debate right now tonight and say everybody should go and take the vaccine. But there are colleagues of yours, and we've named two.
Absolutely.
Let me name a third one. Mr. Brijesh Kalappa was on one of our earlier evening shows, and he very openly clearly spoke about hurting religious sentiments, how cow is sacred, how we should not be fooling people after you slaughtering cows. How can you slaughter cows and take their serum out and put it in a vaccine and not tell us about it? So where is the party stand? Show me that one tweet of the party which is telling the world that
I am telling
unless
you
you're
what the
hoping that the whole
stand is.
country is watching
I
the
don't
urban
want to
debate
comment on
tonight.
what another Congress person has said.
No, I think it doesn't wash. I mean,
Yes, Anshul Avajit. Where is the party's overall stand on it?
Sorry, you asked me, sorry, what was the question?
Unless you think that the whole of the
I'm
country
telling-
is
I'm
watching the
repeating
urban
my
debate
stand,
tonight.
Tan- I'm repeating my stand, Tanvi, in clear, absolutely clear terms, unequivocal terms. I've said that right from the very beginning. In fact, my opening statement was this, and I reiterated throughout. This is not the position. I am saying, please, for God's sake, go out and take the vaccine. The problem is not with the vaccine. The problem is with the vaccine distribution and the fact that there are the dearth of vaccines in this country. The numbers don't add up. That is the other problem in this country. Vaccine hesitancy will be another problem. But this is, I am absolutely pro-science. There can be no other doubt about it.
Okay.
And I make this position absolutely clear once and for all.
Okay. So before Raman Malik comes in, Dr. Parekh has patiently heard everybody out, and I must go to him and bring in an additional, expert view. Dr. Parekh, the other aspect that many would be wondering about is the slaughtering aspect of it. And I think, the government, Congress party, and the experts will have to now address this issue since it's just been thrown out there in public.
Okay, so Tanvi, if I may dampen the rhetoric and the polemics a bit and add a bit of historical perspective to the scientific perspective and the political and I might add even the ethical perspective which has been covered so far. As you rightly pointed out virtually in your opening statement that this is nothing new. It's been around for ages. So, the anti-vaxxers got a vocation within a couple of years of Edward Jenner discovering the vaccine for smallpox. We've covered this amply in the vaccine book, where we begin with the history of vaccine development. And when, Jenner got hold of an 8-year-old boy, James Fick vaccinated him and demonstrated after that in 22 others that vaccination works. Interestingly, within a couple of years of that, the controversy started. There was a prominent satirist at that time, James Gilroy, if I remember his name correctly, and he alleged that getting the cowpox vaccine would make people partially like cows, not physically, but internally would make them like cows. At that time, surprisingly, Christians were offended because they felt an animal product was being put into humans. Within a few years, there was another celebrated cartoonist, Isaac Cruikshank, who many would have heard of, and he continued with this campaign, and so did his son. And this went to such an extent that the British Parliament had to enact a law in 1853 saying that vaccination in children was mandatory. And despite that, in 1885, there was a procession of 100,000 people at that time taking a woman and her 2 children. She didn't want to vaccinate them. And the protest started. And a few years later, in fact, the US Supreme Court had to intervene to make vaccine mandatory. So protesting against vaccines for one reason or the other, but also on the origins in cows or calves, as has come up now, has been going on for a long time. And in fact, the French have an interesting saying, which is, plus ça change, plus la même chose. The more things change, the more they remain the same. And that's clearly what we're seeing today. I mean, the political debate on this is almost medieval. It goes back to the early debates, which I've followed with interest, more or less variations on the same theme. The fact is that in a lot of aspects in lives, I would imagine, some of the people who are so vitriolic about this whole calf serum thing are probably wearing shoes and sandals which are made from calf leather. I think the important thing is to understand that there is no calf serum in the vaccine, that this has been a standard process, as Dr. Chauhan pointed out so clearly and categorically in the process of making vaccines. And however, in the actual vaccine, its delivery, its administration, it is 2 steps removed from that. And really, there should not be too much of a vitriolic debate on this. We should understand what is really important as everybody. And it actually, of the debate, there's such an amazing consensus amongst all of us that we need to go on with the vaccination and, leave this to people.
Dr. Parekh, you and I and everybody else on this panel already knew that and always believed that, and we didn't really need any convincing on whether or not to take this vaccine or any vaccine when it comes to COVID. But many people do. And for those who truly believe in the religion or the aspects of cow and this, cow being sacred, or even the those believing in animal rights who can then come along and say, oh, you slaughtered a cow to make this vaccine. That's where the danger lies. It's not for any 6 of us, because we don't need convincing about a vaccine, and which is why such a discourse and narrative becomes extremely dangerous. Yes, Madhavan wanted to make a point.
Yeah, I just want to say that I come from the south, and Carnatic music is so prominent, and you know that the mridangam is made with cowhide, or it used to be for a long time. There have been some issues over how a musical form celebrated by Brahmins is, and Hindu high caste uses. But the key point is cruelty to the cows. It's nothing to do with the cow, because we all drink cow's milk. So if there is a dead cow, using the hide is not a big issue. Similarly, even extracting serum from a cow for medicinal purposes, snake poison is used for medicinal purposes, and therefore this should be seen rationally and scientifically. So I would say, Congress had Dadabhai Naoroji, who went to the British Parliament and said the British are having un-British rule in India. So today's statement is un-Congress, if you ask me. It goes against the essence of Congress and what it stands for, and therefore that surprises me. This controversy will blow away in a day or two, but this is not really authentic Congress. And I might add, with you, Tanvi, I agree. In a country in which politics is increasingly medieval, and as Dr. Parekh said, this only is a return of the medievals, why should Congress, which is a core USP is of being a modern party, post-Enlightenment, eclectic, representing the highest Hindu tradition in terms of the Vedantic and Vedic quest of knowledge, that is the Hindutva Congress should be practicing, not this kind of street kind of Hindutva, which I think shows desperation ahead of UP elections, hoping that they'll get some brownie points. Sadly, they will not. They'll get more brownie points out of focusing on the healthcare system.
Nobody is going to get convinced if you use the same narrative as your rivals, and especially in times like this, on issues like this. You can't beat the BJP at using these kind of issues to their benefit. That's their expertise and forte. Anshul, I know you're sitting here and defending and saying go and take the vaccine, but you know what? The Congress party should have officially released the statement, and Rahul Gandhi should have tweeted within half hour of Gaurav Pandey putting out that heinous tweet, I would call it. Yes, last word to Raman Malik before I wrap this up.
Tanvi, the best point is that they are giving Gyan on Congress. The Congress giving Gyan on cow is hilarious. Reason being that the youth head in Kerala actually butchers a cow and a calf to show the resentment and the choice towards beef, and that was done in full knowledge of Rahul Gandhi. So today they coming up and talking about this is so hilarious and hypocritical, number one. Number two, they should believe more in people who have some knowledge about issues rather than some fly-by-night operators whom they think are social media communicators and are much better than the others who may be serving them in ranks which they do not see from the high castle.
And he may not be a very big party or post holder, but he definitely has a very strong presence on social media, which we know by now, the kind of power it holds. Anshul and I just spent, the previous 45 minutes debating the powers of social media and who should regulate it. Dr. Chauhan, yes, the last word to you. I know I'm out of time, but I must give you those 30 seconds. Dr. Chauhan. Yes.
Yeah, very quick. The best way to deal with this controversy is to just completely ignore it from right now.
Okay.
It is really not worth discussing. The good news about vaccines are two very good vaccines, a platform that has been used that hasn't come so far. One is Novavax. Finally, we have the data, phase 3 data, and then the Baylor College of Medicine vaccine, which biological evidence is going to make. Hopefully, and the Genova vaccine of mRNA, hopefully these vaccines will be available by mid-September or definitely early August. I think we should just look forward to having large number of very good vaccines, and there's nothing at all wrong with Covaxin. I can assure you that.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, we've been highlighting stories of government officials and district collectors and magistrates and the awesome work they're actually doing on ground to deal with vaccine hesitancy, to spread awareness and push out more and more vaccines in the rural parts. And I think that needs to be our focus, getting more vaccines and vaccinating more people. Completely out of time. Thank you so much to all of the panelists for joining us on this conversation. Don't get carried away.